Good morning, happy Monday, and welcome to a brand new episode of Vida Baseball Live. Happy official World Series Eve. The postseason is upon us. We got here. We did it. The LCS is behind us. Ozzie's coming in from Chicago. Jen is in New Jersey. And I am here. I'm still going to call it Slam Diego. It's good to see you guys. Happy Monday. Game 7 last night. I know you all were tuning in. We were texting. Quick thoughts off the top. Jen?
Oh, it was a great Game 7. I mean, it's everything that you want a Game 7 to be. That's what it was last night. The drama, I mean, the great plays, the errors, on top of all of that. But it was really great. It was a great Game 7, and congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I mean, congrats to the Braves too for making it as far as they did. I mean, they scared a lot of people because I think a lot of people thought, the Braves could be there, and I think at any point within the next couple of years, they will be a World Series team.
Ozzie, I know you had a lot of issues.
No, I thought it was a well-managed game from both sides. Snigger and Dave did a great job. I think the players made it exciting. Horrible base running, which comes to show you that even at the highest level, sometimes we do make mistakes for guys that are professionals. But you know what? It was great. I think that the Dodgers came back and proved to everyone why they had been the best team in the National League, which is something that I think a lot of people don't give them credit for. They came back. This is the weakest Dodgers team to ever make it to the postseason because their pitching hasn't been there. Their home runs weren't there, but they grind, man. They tied the game with a home run from Kike in a pinch hit, which is crazy. Urias comes in and saves it with a 3-inning save, and their bullpen, I think, looking at my stats, it had like 5 innings of scoreless baseball. So a lot of great moments baseball-wise, but it was good. It was a Game 7 played the way it's supposed to be played, and it was a good one for Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I think to me one of the most glaring storylines here was the one Achilles heel for the Dodgers has been their pitching, specifically their bullpen. And here we saw in Game 7 when it really mattered, as all good teams do, they step up to the plate and literally knock it out of the park. And they were able to come together and as a collaborative effort, close out the game. Just beautifully done. So we want to know what you guys think. Were you watching last night? And who do you have going forward when it comes to the World Series? Who are you guys going with? A, the Dodgers, B, the Rays, or C, the fans? And the fans, by the way, whether you're watching at home or whether you're lucky enough or I guess daring enough to be one of the 11,500 fans that are going to be allowed into Globe Life Stadium come the World Series. Would you guys go if you got a ticket? Would you want to see it live and in person?
If it would have been Astros and Dodgers, I think I would have maybe tried to figure out a way because I think that would have just been, 2020 101, right? The way that this year has gone. But I think with this, I'm happy to see it from home.
Oh, the poor Rays.
I'm lazy. Not to take anything away from the Rays. Like they are an amazing team and they deserve to be here in the World Series. It's just the dramatics as far as the history goes with the Houston Astros and all that drama. And I know that there would have been a lot of trash talking from both sides, especially coming from the Houston Astros. We would have seen a lot of chirping from Correa, who's been an expert at that this entire season. So I would have loved to see all of that.
Love you, Rays, but you ain't worth my health. Ozzie, would you go?
You know what? I got offered a ticket from a friend that was going to get it from one of the umpires, and they actually play Monday Night Football in Cowboy Stadium. Then, the games will be on Tuesday, so it would have been excited to go. I'm too lazy. I enjoy watching games now from my couch, especially with the pandemic. In the point of covering the game, when you're there and you're just like, unless I'm covering and I can be on the field and I'm in the media room, I think I would have covered it like that. To go as a fan, no, not really. I think that I would have needed the whole experience. But I think out of this poll, I really think the fans are the winners. COVID 2020, we didn't even think it was going to happen. We had our doubts that the season was going to end. It's here. The World Series is here. It's going to happen. It's going to be played. And the two teams are two teams that deserve to be there. So I think it's exciting for both franchises to make it. So I think that for baseball is a win. And for the fans, anytime there's a game that's 3 hours plus and no one's complaining, and I tweeted about it yesterday, that's what good baseball is. And that's why the fans win, because that game could have been 5 hours long and I don't think that we would have noticed.
Yeah, I love your game. It was something like, for those of you who think baseball is boring, Are you kidding me right now? Look at this.
Yeah.
That was great. It was awesome. So let us know what you guys think. Hit us up on Twitter. Respond to our poll. We've got the Dodgers, the Rays, or the fans. Right now, Dodgers heavily favored. 50% of you think the Dodgers are going to take it in the World Series. I don't know. Let's predict it right now. Jen, who's got it? Rays or Dodgers? Dodgers?
Yeah.
Ozzie?
You know what? After the Dodgers' performance yesterday, because two things happened. They grinded, and their defense hasn't been playing very, very spectacular. I still think that the Rays kind of snuck themselves through. Just they were a little bit better than the Astros, but I don't think they will be able to dominate. I really think the Dodgers are going to just step up and show them everyone how great they are. Dave Roberts, very out of character, screaming, "This is our year." And I know that from the front office standpoint, Mr. Freeman is going to bring it. You never want the professor to get outschooled by the student, and he's going up against his old crew. So I know that the Dodgers are ready to bring it. And I think that they've just been playing amazing. Mookie Betts, I don't even know if he hit this series, but the way that he's been playing, I think when players find ways to be great without the bat and in other ways, that's what makes teams dangerous. And that's why I think the Dodgers take it at the end.
So yeah, Mookie has had, I believe, a hit every game that he led off in. And like you said, and I think Alex Rodriguez talking about it as well. He might have been the only player ever to win an MVP just based on his defense alone. I mean, the way that he played the game, I think that his influence on that team was very, very important and very impactful in the way that he carried himself, that attitude, that swag, and the way that he plays. I mean, by far, the best defensive player I think we've seen throughout all of the teams has been Mookie Betts.
Worth every penny. Worth every single penny they paid him. Again, I don't even know that he had gotten a hit every single game, and I'm keeping the stats for the games because his defense and what he has been able to do off the not being in the batter's box has been amazing. And I think that's been the story with the Dodgers. I really think that that's been the story in this postseason is, watching really good baseball. But I really think that at the end of the day, I think that those guys really want it. I think that they're really focused, and they know that they can't let this one slip away. Everyone keeps bringing it up. 3 trips in 40 years.
Yep.
How many more chances you're going to get? And again, in a 60-game season, I know people do not think this, but they are. They made it again. They stayed healthy. Next season, they don't know they're going to be there. Guys can get hurt. Your team doesn't perform as well as it's supposed to. So they want to win it now. And for them, it's a big deal. And hopefully they get it because I think that this is their season and this is a chance for them to step up. And I know the Rays are not going to make it easy, but I think at the end of the day, the Dodgers take it.
But it's also like literally the best of the best. I mean, finally we got to the World Series and the teams that were supposed to be there are there. For the first time since I believe 2014, I think was the stat that both teams in their division that were the best team in their divisions are actually in the World Series. And that's what we have. And I think a lot of us, myself included, complained about the way that initial first round was set up with the teams that were in there and not giving any advantage to teams that won their division having to play in that wild card series. I still don't like that part with no advantage given to those teams that won the divisions respectively. But I'm happy to see that the Rays and the Dodgers are there, and I think it's going to be a really fun World Series for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's also no secret that Major League Baseball was probably, I would say, from a ratings and from a brand integration and from a selling standpoint, dollar for dollar, we're this close to having what would have been the must-see World Series of the millennium. I mean, had we had the Dodgers and the Astros make it, and what would have been more 2020 than to have the Dodgers and the Astros, two teams that were down coming into the LCS and being able to take it all and go head-to-head in the World Series. I mean, that would have been absolutely incredible. People were, upset and griping the fact that it almost seemed like participation trophies were given away when it came to this expanded playoffs and the fact that they were letting the Astros in and people saying that somehow they eked their way in and they didn't deserve to be there. But at the end of the day, the Astros deserved every moment that they were able to get. And listen, I'm not an Astros apologist, but I think that they earned their place in being able to accomplish what they were able to do. I know people made jokes and they said, well, let's see what happens when there are no trash cans. Yeah, but they still made it all the way to the ALCS. So
kudos to Dusty Baker. Kudos to Dusty Baker.
And that's a sad story that we're going to have and I compare it to Alex Rodriguez, okay? Because I think what made it sad, like if another team would have done this, they would have been like, we get it, okay? We understand why you guys use trash cans. They're a very talented team. They've proven that. Just like Alex, you know, even with his tainted past, when you look at him, you're like, man, this is probably one of the greatest guys to ever put a uniform. Barry Bonds, even without the things that they were being blamed for, like they were so amazing. Like you start saying, why did you do it? That's a situation with the Astros. When you look at the Astros team, you're like, man, this team's really, really talented. They have the analytics. You know, they played the game the right way, the way when the Astro way. So when we found out that they had cheated, you're like, why did you have to do it? You were so good. You were competing. It's like if we find out right now the Dodgers cheated. Like you've been at it, you know, three out of the 4 years. So that's why I think it hurts. But I think that they deserve everything. I think that I've forgiven the Astros in the sense that I'm not going to forget what they did, but Major League Baseball has forgiven them, including the media. Every single time there's a manager's vacancy, the first person that we mention is AJ Hinch. Okay. You cannot, Shoeless Joe Jackson is not allowed to have his number retired and a team because he was a Black Sox. This is like 1909, you know, the scandal. So I think the media forgave the Astros when they decided that it was okay for their managers to be considered. I think that they're going to play this off as a suspension. Is it fair? No. But is it the way that it's going? Absolutely. Again, we had two guys facing each other that were part of the cheating scandal. Charlie Morton and McCullers were both in that team. So when you're in a team, okay, that the pitchers didn't cheat, no, but they knew what was going on. So I think that obviously we focus a lot on Altuve. We focus a lot on Correa, on Springer. It's a team. It happened. Bregman. It happened as a team, and that's why Lunghouse no longer there because they thought that he was, you know, that was his culture. But I think as an Astros organization, you know what? If I was their fan base, wear it, say, yeah, we cheated, we won, who cares? We got.
But that's what I think. I think that's the part that's missing is actually wearing it, right? Because I think the part that ticks off a lot of people is that you get the impression that the Astros are mad that people are mad at them. And it's like
I think Correa is mad that people are mad at them. I think Altuve could have snapped at any given moment. I think Dusty could have snapped at any given moment. I think that they actually played really well under the circumstances of, again, there were no fans. So that's going to be a huge change too. But I think that, you know, when you go, I think that the hardest thing for them, and I said this since day one, and I thought about this about Alex because we're friends, when you have to look at your opponent in the eye, your peers, okay? You have to look them in the eyes. And some of them are going to be like, you know what, dude, I get it. Some of them are not. So I think for Altuve, this year might have been a little bit harder. I think next year it's going to get a little bit harder because he's going to have to see people not in their division. And it's going to be like every time you go into town, it's like, I got to be reminded of what I did. And I think every player goes through that, steroid players that cheat. But I think that for the circumstances, they could have easily packed it in. They could have said, you know what, we're not even going to try. We're not even going to bring Dusty. Let's trade a couple of these guys. But they ward. And again, is it disappointing how it was handled by Major League Baseball? That's up to them, but they got their punishment. We can't get mad because they weren't punished. You know, some people thought we went 6 months ago, maybe less than that, in this show. We would talk about how Alex Cora and AJ Hinch were possibly facing a ban from Major League Baseball. Okay. And for months, I was like, I hope that it's a 2-year suspension for Alex, but I hope they don't ban him. I hope that they don't ban him. Like, you can systematically be banned. That's a different thing. But like officially banned, like off the books, I didn't want that for any of them because that's really, really sad. And now we're talking about them being hired. So the story has completely changed. So I think from a player standpoint, you know what? They did what they did. Again, fans are never going to let them down. If they don't like them, they don't like them. We're going to be seeing people troll them for the foreseeable future. But I think that they played well. And I think the two better teams won. I think that Tampa was a better team. And I think the Dodgers did a better team than the Braves.
And shout out to the Yankee fans who were rooting for Tampa. that was a lot of fun to follow on Twitter. Let me tell you. I mean, following all those fans.
Okay, Yankee fans, they have their own issues to deal with. They need to figure out their own stuff. That's something that
my enemy is my friend.
I'm just saying, like we're like living vicariously through somebody else, and it's like you know that the Yankees were the only ones that got cheated. Okay, it was everyone in the league, and again, so I think that it's funny how those fan bases look at it, but I really think that, you know, I think Tampa did a good job of not falling into the game. We thought at times they might be doing that, but they played. And I think, you know what? I think that it's been very classy from both sides. I was hoping for a selfie from Bellinger, from somebody on the Dodgers. But even Tampa, they would ask him how was it playing the Astros, and they would talk. All the responses were very, very professional. Very, you know what, they played well, but they didn't go there. A lot of people could have said, "I'm going to go there because I can," but I think both teams have did it a very professional way on talking about their opponents.
Yeah. And last thing I'll say about the Astros is I think once that core is disbanded, when we're talking about Springer, Bregman, Correa, Altuve, I think when those guys are not on the team anymore, or it's the same thing we saw with Garrett Cole, right? Garrett Cole was part of that Astros team. He's now a member of
nobody mentioned it.
By the way, Keiko with the White Sox. I'm like, he cheated. So it's funny how you say that. Everyone thinks they're all cheaters until there's a rumor that one of them's coming to your team.
Right. And then
you're like, well,
and it's like, okay.
But he's really talented.
According to the videos, he only used it for 20 at-bats. I'm like, wait, what happened? Again, I think
you know what? I want to give credit to Correa for shouting out Randy Arozarena, and he had a quick anecdote about how he met him when he was rehabbing out in the minors. Shout out to him as well for bringing that up and kind of that really cool sportsmanship like attitude with him, because it was nice to see.
Absolutely. Sharing the love. And let's talk about Arozarena, the MVP we all need. The first rookie position player to be named MVP in an LCS or World Series. And he certainly led the charge offensively. It was wonderful to see him play. And check out those boots, you guys. Those made their rounds on social media. I was like, how can you not love this guy?
Yeah, these boots were made for winning MVPs. And I mean, shout out to him for real, for that attitude, that swag, that nonchalant, it's almost like he's been here before, that he doesn't seem fazed by it, in the sense that there's no pressure on him. And he carried this team. I believe he carried the Tampa Bay Rays when it came to the offense. So yeah, I mean, congratulations to Randy. I mean, what a fun player to watch. I want to, though, send a message to MLB Network, who apparently did not think or does not think that they can interview him because he does not speak English, and had to ask Willie Adames about what his real personality is like, because, they can't speak to him because he doesn't speak English. It is 2020. I am bilingual. If y'all need somebody who is bilingual, holla at your girl, and we can do stuff with La Vida Baseball, because it is just inconceivable to me to think that in 2020, you all don't think that it is worthy, that these players are worthy enough of having somebody there that can interview them. That it just boggles my mind. And, I love MLB Network, and I love what you guys all do. I love MLB, obviously, but you need to step it up and find ways to tell your players' stories. I mean, MLB is filled with Latino stars. Start getting with the program. We here at La Vida Baseball, we've been doing it. Me, when I was with my own show, La Chica Deportes, been doing it. I don't know what's taking you guys so long. Sorry.
I really
I digress.
The NFL does it. The NBA does it. If you want to grow the sport, okay, you need to start where you have the most fans, Latin America. Even if you don't know if someone that's going to be Latino is going to be the MVP, have someone on standby that represents Major League Baseball. Okay, borrow somebody who's a big name if you want, or just bring somebody who's an up-and-comer, but just have someone that's there that can cover if you have to ask important questions in Spanish. No need for translators. Just ask the questions, and then you go out and break it down. Just like we do it in Latin America. We do it for American players. In Latin America, there's 2 guys that speak English in the winter ball, and there's a reporter there that has to speak English in order for them to get interviewed, okay? This is your biggest stage, and you don't want things to miss out. So I think from a preparation standpoint, is it money? I hope that it's not, because then you have really bad accountants, because it shouldn't be money. Again, you should have someone there that is prepared, because we do such a great job for such a big moment, because you don't know, what happened if Ronald Acuna was the MVP? English he's going to answer the questions better in Spanish in a moment of excitement, okay? And it just looks classier and it looks better. I think they missed a huge opportunity with the MVP. Such a great story. Why? Because no one picked him to be the MVP. This guy wasn't even going to be on the big league team. This guy was 4 years ago in Tijuana, Mexico. You know what GM?
He was sick with COVID.
He was sick with COVID. Exactly. You couldn't even add even more. But you know what scouts tell you when you're playing in Tijuana? Ozzie works for teams in Mexico, and you call and you say, hey, man, this guy's doing really, really well. Oh, well, it's Mexico. We'll see. Because they don't want to bring you there because they're like, it's a huge chance. So the fact that he was able to come back and then he has COVID, fights his way into the lineup because he wasn't even in the lineup, according to Cash, before the series starts. And then he literally plays himself every single day. Great story, and you don't want to miss that. That's what makes baseball interesting. That's the type of story and situation that makes it magical. And I just think that we have the resources to make it happen and do a lot more. So I think that Major League Baseball there cannot drop the ball. You always have someone in the group that's bilingual. It is what it is.
Yep. You have enough former players working there that I mean, Carlos Peña is one that they've used for many times on the network side. It just, yeah.
But even the Pedro thing, like Fox had a great with Pedro because no one knew, including the internet, what Correa was telling the pitcher.
Yeah.
Unless you spoke Spanish or you can read lips, you didn't know. John Boy was like, oh my God. And I'm like tweeting him like, hey, this is what I think that he said. But Pedro was able to say, hey, this is what he said. Kept the bad words out, but he was able to transmit that message because he can speak the language. So I think that Spanish, is that language that is so prominent in the game of baseball. And we've seen American writers that do the interviews in Spanish. But I think if like the network says, hey, if you're going to go to so-and-so, do it in Spanish, it's okay. And I think players appreciate that. Those are the little stepping stones that we need to take to make the game just grow, because this was a huge, this series has been huge in Latin America. They love the fact that he was the MVP. They love Cinderella stories because now everyone's like, you know what? You see the league in Mexico, it is awesome. This guy was here 4 years ago. So that helps baseball in general in our ecosystem to grow the game.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on really quick. I just want to give a shout out to the Braves. They came close. Let's talk about them real quick. Did they get a little too swagged out for their britches? Did they get a little too confident, Jen, with the selfies, with the swag?
Yeah. I love you also, but
oh my God, no, I love the Braves. I love the swag. I don't think that any of that had to do with their base running errors. I think that, whenever there was the selfies and all that stuff, it was at a given moment that merited it. But I don't know where the base running blunders came from. Is it that lack of fundamentals being taught, even through major league, once you're at the major league level? And we see it, we see these guys do it on a constant level, but then were they nervous? Like, were they not paying attention? Obviously they were not paying attention. They were not focused.
And there it is, right? Because they could not have gotten to the point that they did had their fundamentals been subpar, right? So you have to imagine that there must have been some other distraction. What was the X factor that was the tipping point that
and sorry to Ron Washington, right? Because he's their third base coach, and they make these errors that was just like, oh, what are you doing in the postseason? What are you doing? You're running yourself out of a game. And it was tough to watch those errors, even on the Dodgers side, but obviously it's more exacerbated when the Braves did it because they lost.
You know what? I think that they
look bad.
I think that there was a couple plays, okay? As soon as Osuna got called safe at home plate, I said he left early. I've been watching this game for long enough. You seen Osuna walk? There's no way that he scored in that play, okay? That was the first one. And the reason that I say the whole swag thing, he was jumping up and down. I'm like, what are you doing? Players, when your team is that exciting and that much fun, okay? Your job as a manager and a coaching staff is to make that energy and hold it, okay? And keep the focus, okay? Because even if your third base coach tells you, hey, no outs, don't go on contact. I've been on that third base side. You want to go because your brain's telling you Turner's a horrible third baseman. He's going to botch this, okay? But this is not a regular season game. You cannot make that mistake. Then the guy from second base takes off to third base. So I can only imagine Snicker's feelings in his stomach. The fact that it happened to the Braves, one of the most fundamental sound teams in the history of the game of baseball, that is something that they preach from the minor leagues all the way through. Makes you think, I think for next year, one of their improvements is, how do we have a lot of energy, okay, but we play the game the right way? For example, Mookie Betts, okay, just as much energy, But Mookie Betts has not been called out in the last 4 years for not running a ball out because they think it's a home run. Okay? He goes to second. So these are all things that when you look at it in the history of the Braves, it's like, yes, and I know people are like, oh, it's fun, let the game be enjoyable. That's great. But those mistakes are the things that cost you from being a champion and not being a champion. A small play of something that you practice, very simple. So for that situation, I thought the Osuna, which he's getting the blunder of it, I think we would not be talking about this had they won because it was early in the game. It wasn't a big deal. I thought the rally killer was the double play with ground ball to third base because that one, Osuna on this play, you could say, well, I didn't know Mookie was going to get it. I wanted to make sure I scored because I'm slow if the ball drops. Osuna had a lot more excuses. The ball to ground ball to third base, you're watching that play in front of you. That one, that was a hard one to swallow. So I think that we just want to make fun of them because, again, they had extra swag. The selfies, the talking on Twitter, and that happens.
I love all of that. I love the flag.
By the way, my boy El Abusador Ronald Acuna. The only way that you can go on Twitter and talk smack and become great is if you back it up.
Yeah, of course. It's the only reason that people have.
The moment he went on Twitter and went against Bauer, okay, if he faltered, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes when we're talking about getting into someone's game, you don't want to fall in that game, okay? Because that's not your game. And I really think that little by little, they started losing confidence. The Braves started losing confidence. Every single play.
You could see it in their faces yesterday. I think you could see it in their faces.
Thing of like the Dodgers gaining confidence. You know, their at-bats started getting better, started getting deeper. 6 pitches, 7 pitches, 8 pitches. Both home runs were on 8 pitches. So the mental, again, you can't compare. These guys have been there. This is their 3rd World Series trip. Their mental toughness of being there, the Braves just almost lost it. And we almost saw it with Tampa. They almost lost a 3-game series as well. So we were seeing these younger teams kind of fall into the hesitation of, oh my God, I can't win that one game. And we saw more experience come in and say, okay, this is what it's going to take, one out at a time, one play at a time. Don't compact your errors. And they really made it because look at the Dodgers. They could have faltered in the second inning. Their second pitcher gets shelled for a couple runs, but they didn't. They kept grinding. They kept to their plan. And I think that's what mature teams do. That's where I think the Braves jump needs to come. They have the talent. They have so much talent. Like it's ridiculous.
Listen, and there was a part of me that was rooting for the Braves because of the diversity alone. I mean, I love the Dodgers, and you have Dave Roberts as their manager. The one African American manager was the other one was Dusty Baker this year. But you have him, but then your starting lineup is pretty much white. Okay, if you look at the lineup, they're all white except for Mookie Betts. Then you go to the Braves and you have this like really diverse group of guys from different countries in Latin America, here in the States, and there was part of me that was rooting for them just because of that, because I wanted to see that diversity. I think that's something that the Dodgers are going to have to look at as well. I know not a lot of people brought it up, but I did see that conversation going on in Twitter because their diversity is more in their pitching department, which is great. You have Julio Urias, who had a great game last night. You have
Baez,
all of those. It's in their pitching lineup, but you also want to see that represented in that starting lineup as well. So I think that's something that the Dodgers maybe need to work on, or at least look at and say like, oh, you know what? We didn't even notice. This was almost an all white lineup when it came to that. But as far as the Dodgers and what they need to do, I think moving forward. And before we close out the program, what do they need to do to win? What do they need to do to finally make it? And I think, we've all been talking about it, and it's Dave Roberts needs to be allowed to manage his game. I think that analytics is important, but I think that last night we saw Dave Roberts managing a game and managing it very, very well, using Julio Urias in all 3 innings because he saw he was doing great. He was on a roll. Why would you take him out? And that's exactly what he did. Had it been probably, based on analytics, had it been, front office calling down saying, okay, now you need to put Kenley in, maybe, they probably would have still won, but we saw it work last night. I mean, I don't know, right? Like, you don't know. You can't.
He doesn't know that. Okay, Kelly doesn't know that. And I think number one, I think that he's a true pro and he really wants a ring because that young man has not said one bad thing about not being used in the closer role, and he is a superstar.
Yep.
And he deserves everything that he's gotten. Had Kershaw, I'm glad that Kershaw was hurt. Had Kershaw been healthy, okay, every Dodger fan, every analytics person would have said Kershaw needs to be in this game. Okay, not considering the fact that Kershaw's not a good postseason pitcher. So I think that by him not being ready and Jensen maybe not, he had pitched the day before, I think that he said, you know what, I'm going to roll with it and I'm going to see what happens. And I think that he really went to the guys that were prepared at that moment for that given moment. I think that's key. I think that, you know, even Jensen can tell you, I don't feel 100%. I think when managers can see that, you know, pinch hitting Kike for Jock, those little moves, I think that in a season with COVID, and this is big even without COVID, but in a season with COVID, of so many games in a row, okay, you don't know what guys are going through emotionally. Guys are tired, you know, they're mad. It's a short season. Some guys are hitting 110. You know, the Dodgers are in, but there's guys in their lineups that are hitting 110 for the season. That you have to learn how to really manage those personalities. And I think that's what he's really good at. He's a really good in-game manager, but having a decision made because a computer told you so, because something that happened 4 years ago, I think it's really hard to analyze that today because Urias looked like Fernando Valenzuela. There was no way that he was going to get touched last night. As soon as he grabbed that ball and he got the first 3 outs, I tweeted, I said, Dave, you write this kid out unless they put the time run on second base, then maybe you go to Jansen. But write the kid out and see what he has. So I think that the excitement on how he did that was fun. Talking about the lineups before we end, that also comes to the way that their teams are built. The Braves are a team that are built on diversity, meaning they look for players anywhere and everywhere. They look for the best team players. The Dodgers have gone away of like, let's see what money can get me. They need to start looking back in international because, again, the Dodgers are going for it this year, but how do you sustain success throughout? I think that's where the advantage for the Braves is because the Braves, man, they had 4 different countries represented. All those guys were signed as 16-year-old free agents. They got Freddie Freeman, you know, a top player from North America. So that I think the Braves, balance-wise, for future projections on who's going to be in a better situation, I would take the Braves. The Dodgers need to look into that.
Okay, really fast, Ozzie, before we wrap, does Ozuna get re-signed by the Braves? They signed him for an $18 million one-year contract back on January 21st of 2020. Do they re-sign him and offer him again?
They should, but you know why? Because El Oso was never allowed to be El Oso in St. Louis. In St. Louis, he was not allowed to be himself. He was scared.
Right.
He was tiptoeing. He didn't know if he could do whatever. He was scared. Here, this man was let loose. Let him be wild. The DH, amazing. He's great for that team. He fits in the culture. They love him. Why not sign him? Even if he doesn't produce the way he did this year, I think for him, he needs to stay in Atlanta. And for the Braves, I think that he brought in a lot of swagger that helped other players grow, but he needs to be in Atlanta. It's a good combination.
I think he's never looked more comfortable as he did with Atlanta. I think it was a perfect fit, and we finally saw Marcell Ozuna be the superstar that he is, that he has always been. I mean, he was always a player that didn't get his due as far as, you know, the attention and all of that. So I am so happy that he had the year that he had with the Braves, and I would think that the Braves will offer him a really good contract.
People forget he's a Marlin, okay? When Marcell Ozuna ended up being a St. Louis Cardinal was because everyone thought that he was extremely aggressive, was going up there and just hit and just let loose. And when he went to St. Louis, I think that he made his personality a little bit more timid, and that affected the way that he played. I think here he needs to just be let loose and let him go play. Let him go, get 400 at-bats and let him swing away. I would sign him just because I think it's good for both teams.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our edition of La Vida Baseball Live. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Ozzie. Enjoy Game 1 of the World Series mañana, and we will be back on Wednesday with much more La Vida Baseball, breaking down Game 1 and what is to come in the World Series of 2020. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye, guys.